Islam, everyone. How y'all doing today? I'm brother T. Page L, uh, Moorish American, Muslim, of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Uh, I'm from Detroit, Michigan. Coming from Noble Temples. That's a part of the Moorish Science Temple of America, and I'm affiliated with the one and only. I just greet everybody, say Islam, everybody around the world, and what up, though? But today we're going to be talking about the infiltration uh, of the Moorish Science Temple of America from the Moorish Science Temple of America Inc. faction. Talking about C. Kirkman Bey, Brother F. Nelson Bey, Brother Jacob Blakely Bey. Um, I used to be a part when I first joined the Moorish Science Temple of America years ago. That's that's the fraction that I joined. And when I used to attend meetings, I noticed things wasn't right. So I began to question. I still attended my meetings and all of that, but I began to question. And then I ended up leaving. Uh, I ended up leaving, and then eventually came back. And I eventually came back and called Tahaka Bay online, just met up with him. Uh, and then through there, asked certain questions. Actually, I asked him about his T-shirt, about the Thomas Drew Ali University, and it all branched off from there. But this is important. The stuff we're talking about is important because you got to, when you're building, you're trying to build a nation, you're trying to build something, even in your family, you can't build that on a lie, right? So if the foundation is not solid, then it's going to break, right? And then that's what we're building from, right? No, it's not about how much money, how much power you hold. It's, hey, is this actually the plan? Are we following the plan of Prophet Noble Drew Ali? And if you officially believe, like I believe, that he's a prophet, then everything that he laid down, you must follow, right? Whether you agree with it or not, that's just part of the curriculum. um, so, and as we know, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, he uh, he handed it off to Brother Emil, right? So if he handed it off to Brother Emil, then we got to follow, that path. And if we totally disregard Brother Emil, then we're totally disregarding uh, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, right? In a sense, because that's who we handed it off to. Hold on 1 second. And, and and since we're following that faction, and when I was in, like I said, I used to be in the ink, and we didn't never give honors to Brother Mealy. We never even addressed him, right? So, so if we're not going to address him, like, whoa, the prophet handed it down to him, and I didn't just go off of what Tahaka Bay said or anybody else. When I first found out about the Moorish Science Temple of America, I was locked up, right? I'm gonna be honest with you. But when I joined for a religious point of view, right? Not to get my straw man's back or no garbage like that. No, Trey Mack wanted to be a better person. That's it, point blank. So as I began to build, and like I heard stories and while I was in there about different fractions of the Moorish Science Temple of America, but I never acknowledged it. It was like, hey, I found this Holy Quran right here, and it's getting me on the right path. So I'm gonna take this journey, right? And so when I came home, that's when I found out everything. So just building upon that, you have to build yourself. Well, we have to build this nation upon truth, right? That's it, point blank. It's not to come and attack you and attack this person. It's this. If you say you want unity and I say I want unity, let's build it off the truth, right? I'm not going to sit down with you and lie to you and say, let's build from that, because that is not being sincere. And and since we're going to build and we want this unity, and it's only one temple, then let's let's put all that stuff behind us that our ancestors did, because that's who Kirkman Bey is. That's who Millie Eel is. That's who F. Nelson Bey. Those are our ancestors, right? In our lifetime, we didn't go through that, right? So if we find out that E. Millie Eel was correct, and this is who the prophet chose, then that's what we must conform to, right? Because it's the truth. It comes from the holy and divine prophet. So we roll that way, right? Let's get over the hurdle of who's right on this and who's right on that. Let's get the understanding. Let's get the truth out there, and then we just build upon that. If we had to change this organization, then we're going to change here. This is what we do at the Noble Temples. If we find something that is not correct, and it's just not correct, then we change. We adapt to what the prophet wants. That's it, point blank, in a nutshell. You got a problem, take it up with Noble Drew Ali, the prophet. And so today is not a shot. Today is not going to be a shot at different ancestors or current more people in the Moorish Science Temple of America. It's just, we just want the truth out, right? And we're going to go off of the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. We're going to go off of the Divine Constitution and Bylaws and 101s. And we're going to just build from the laws. That's it. So if you feel attacked, you shouldn't feel attacked, right? It's just the truth. And sometimes the truth hurts. And if it hurt, hey, accept the pain, embrace it, and make the necessary corrections. The same thing the prophet said. He said, hey, if you make a statement publicly and it's a lie, you got to address that lie and let it be known to the public again that, hey, I made a mistake and said something. So we're going to build upon that. But because I got questions from back in the day, but I'm not one of those Moors that deal like in ancient history or, hey, I'm trying to get my straw mans or none of that. I like to deal with current topics today, right? I want to know why brother Azim Hopkins Bey, brother Anil Bey, brother R. Jones Bey, why they don't, like when the Grand Sheikh Tahaga Bey say something, why they don't refute it, right? Why is it not even addressed, even in public? I mean, you know, even if you're like, even in the temple, because it's like people have questions, and right? And if he presents, or if I present, or anybody presents a Moorish guy and say, hey, the prophet said this, boom, boom, ain't no changing from that. So just accept the truth as it is. If your feelings get hurt, sorry that your feelings got hurt, and the truth hurts, I guess. But Islam, I see you all greased up. You get your Java?
Yeah, mama told me when you go to a fight, put on your baby oil. You gotta get your Vaseline and your baby oil. Today we gotta put on the shea butter. You know what I'm talking about. But thank you, T Page L, for giving us your time. You know, this is a different show from Moorish World TV on Moorish World TV 7. I like to address all Moorish topics and conscious topics, whether it be Hebrew, whether it be Christian, whether it be, and that's what this channel is geared towards. And I hope people would support this, like, and this is the thing. This is primarily for those who are interested in Moorish science, the authentic teachings of Moorish science. That's what this channel is all about. Though we will have guests throughout our experience, Hebrew, Christian, whatever, on the show, but this is primarily for those who are interested in the teachings of Moorish science as taught by Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And I just hope that we have the same support as Moorish World TV, because Moorish World TV are not proclaimed Moorish Americans or Moors per se. Moors just the same. And the Moorish World TV citizens go all out. They go to war. They support, they just go all out. And I just hope that at minimum, we can get your support by at least sharing the video and starting dialogue, because without dialogue, we don't move nowhere. Without question, we don't move nowhere. You can get mad at the way I present the information or my style or the energy that you're not used to. But if we don't question, we don't move forward. If no one would have questioned the horse and buggy, we would still be in the horse and buggy, and you wouldn't be in your automobile combustion engine and now your electric engine motor vehicle. You would still be in the horse and buggy. And if anybody didn't question the MO of walking, then they wouldn't have got to the camel. They wouldn't have got to the, you get what my point is. And it's the same thing with spiritual systems or systems that are structured to usher you into a spiritual reality. If you don't question that, what you were given, then there's no way you can unfold. You know what I mean? And this is what I get from the Prophet Noble Drew Ali say, if I can get you to think, you can save yourself. Thinking requires questioning. That's just what it is. Without questioning, you're not thinking. And that's just what it is. So we can get mad and we can want to hold hands and just skip through the tulips. But without questioning, there is no thinking. And that's just what it is. With that being said, I know my brother got a work day to knock out today, as well as myself. So I'm going to let him kick it off with some of these questions he want to present.
Okay. So my first question, and yes, I do got to go to work later on. I'm working more. What year did Serrano-Bey take over the MST of A from Millie? And I have another question that leads up.
So in context, right? Serrano-Bey never took over the MST of A. In context, from Emilio. Serrano-Bey had taken Emilio to court, which I'll be showing in this presentation. He had taken Emilio to court multiple times because Serrano-Bey had gained possession, which I'll be showing proof in this lecture that's coming up. Serrano-Bey had obtained the paperwork for the Moorish Science Temple of America, which is the corporate filing. He had obtained the corporate filing of the Moorish Science Temple of America, and that's what he was kidnapped for. When they kidnapped him, with that big news article, he had obtained. That's when they said they was trying to get some documents signed by the prophet. For all intents and purposes, those was them documents. Well, they never got the documents because the police came and the shootout happened, et cetera, et cetera. But back to the point. Serrano-Bey began to take Emilio to court, after, like 1930. We'll be showing all the documents. And he took him to court at least about 3 times, if my memory serves me correctly. That's why I like to do screen shares, so we can really pinpoint everything down. But for the sake of this conversation, if my memory serves me correctly, at least 3 times. Because he had that corporate filing, he figured that he'll be able to show that and beat Emilio in court. Well, he never beat Emilio in court. And what would happen is, once Emilio passed formed and no one could contest Serrano-Bey, he refiled these documents, and I'll show that too. He refiled these documents, yet he didn't file them in Chicago. He refiled them somewhere else, claimed possession of the movement, waited a while, and then refiled them in Chicago. And at that point, that was around, this took place, this takeover was in 1934. But now don't hold me to any of these dates, because on this pay-per-view lecture that let me say this. Somebody was on the chat and was like, I would like to see this, but I don't want to pay for it. Let me tell people like this something. Nobody paid for any of the gas. Nobody ever paid for any of the time. Nobody paid any of the efforts I take to put this together, and time is money. But what I want to do is, I'm raising money to put together a true documentary of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, a true reflection of the documentary of Prophet Noble Drew Ali. So we can address things like you had mentioned earlier about Thomas Drew. Was his name Timothy Drew or Thomas Drew? And how did Timothy Drew get to overlap and supersede Thomas Drew, if Thomas Drew was his name? All of these questions need to be answered, but it need to be done in such a way that the world can receive this as a historical happening, not as a religious happening. Because Prophet Noble Drew Ali has been put in a religious box. And in my book, in my research, he wasn't in what we call the proverbial religious box. He was a regular, everyday man who was a prophet of Allah, and he brought us something ancient in order to help us in modern times. But when people put him in the proverbial religious box, they tend to separate him from the people. And it's kind of like Pope riding in that wagon in D.C. He's separated from the people. And so to your question, brother, I know I'm long with it, but to your question, he never actually took over. He actually stepped in when Emilio passed, and then he did all the things that he could do to try to stake claim as he filed with the Secretary of State, you know. But one of the questions that I'm going to answer too, brother, is if Prophet Noble Drew Ali appointed Emilio, and everybody knows that, if Kirkman Bey was given an honorary degree of advisor at the 29 convention, what makes people think that Kirkman Bey was in charge if Emilio honored him with these credentials for what he demonstrated at Prophet at State? If Emilio honored him with credentials and Emilio rescinded them, we're going to give that letter to the people too. He rescinded them. Who's in charge? That's a real simple question. Emilio honored him with the Supreme Grand Advisor, not the leader, Supreme Grand Advisor credentials, honorary. And he says that. Emilio says that. If I honor you with being a manager at Walmart, do I have the power to rescind that? Of course I do. Of course. So this is a silly argument when you really look at it. You know what I mean? This is a silly argument. But let me get to the next question.
Okay. You kind of answered it, but the next question was, how did this transition take place?
Yeah, I answered it all.
You answered it. Yeah, you answered it all in one.
But I want to underscore that again. I want to underscore it again. If I make someone as a manager, even if honorary, I say, listen, we haven't making you officially manager, but you know, you're doing a good job. You managed the store today. And I'm just saying a manager. And he only came up with the but I'm gonna tell you, it's a trick in that advisor, because they're playing on the word advisor and vizier. So when you think about advisor, you're thinking about one who advises. But when you go to the term vizier, that's a term that you like the head of state. And so it's kind of boggling to those who not in the know of what he was trying to pull. He was really trying to pull the position of Supreme Grand Vizier, basically the Supreme Grand Head of State, I mean, of the Moorish diaspora. And this is why he used the term Sultan. That's a political and religious term intermingled. You see what I'm saying? So he was flipping. He was remixing this demonstration right then and there. But with that being said, and I leave the floor open for anybody to challenge me on this. I'm just talking today, but I can bring receipts to back up everything I'm saying.
No, it's not. I like how you put it the last time. It's not a challenge. It's a intellectual dialogue.
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So number 3, I got it. You know how like they say Kirkman Bey, you know, he was just the head. People act like Emilio didn't exist. He didn't get it handed over to him. It just went straight to Kirkman Bey. So my question in that thought frame is this: at what time or year, because they said Kirkman Bey worked with the Prophet and all of that. So at what time or year did Prophet Noble Drew Ali make Kirkman Bey an adept?
According to history, Kirkman-Bey was never made an adept by the prophet. According
So
to history.
okay, so how could he be like? Because way I understand the moral science temple, you got to be an adept before you can be a minister, divine minister, or even a grand. You got to, you know what I mean. You got to go through the chamber. So how would he be in the position to run everything if he never was an adept?
And that's why Emil states that he gave him an honorary. Honorary means that you really didn't meet the requirements. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
But he
okay.
honored you with this advisor credentials for convention. It's just like in convention you have the permanent chairman. That's an honorary position. The permanent chairman, although it says permanent, that's not a position within the Moorish Science Temple of America. I mean, that's a position for convention. And Emil held that position as permanent chairman, but that's only a convention position. That's not a position for there's no such thing as honorary, permanent chairman. But if you look on the flyer for the convention, you see Emil was the permanent chairman, but that's just a position for convention. So he honored Kirkman-Bey because he did some sort of burial ritual at the prophet's funeral. You follow me? At the burial site. So he said for convention, he gave him honorary convention credentials as advisor. Now, the funny part is that they don't even pay attention to that he says we honored or honorary or anything like that. When you look at Bill Cosby, they call him Dr. Bill Cosby. Is Bill Cosby an actual doctor? No. For his philanthropy, many colleges gave him honorary doctorates. But is he a doctor? No. He never went to none of these colleges. And it's the same thing with Kirkman-Bey as it relates to Emil. Now, to make it real simple, if Kirkman-Bey was that important, why didn't the prophet? The only thing they said is he was the prophet interpreter. He was the prophet interpreter. Okay. The prophet had people doing many things, but you hear about Kirkman-Bey because Temple Number 9 ushered him to the forefront. However, that would be just like somebody making Ross Bey the leader and said, oh, he was the publisher of the Moorish Guide. He also was the field secretary. He was close to the prophet. He traveled with the prophet. Ross Bey is the one that traveled with the prophet to go see Marcus Garvey. That was just like saying that Ross Bey is in charge because he traveled with the prophet across country. That don't make sense. And if by any stretch of imagination that it was legitimate, why can't we find anything that would underscore the prophet endorsement of a Kirkman-Bey's leadership? We can't find it nowhere. That's a red flag. That's a red flag. We see endorsements of leadership like Lomax Bey, who flipped the script. We see endorsement of leadership of Miliel. We see endorsements of leadership of Ross Bey. We see endorsement of leadership of many people. Not one time of Kirkman-Bey. It doesn't make sense. So now we need to peel back the layers and find out why they ushered him to the front. Remember that the FBI said in the 60s, and they did it back then, we are not going to kill your leaders. We are going to create your leaders. They have been creating our leaders, and we're going to talk about that in this lecture. This lecture is going to be amazing, but I'll take the next question.
Ooh, that had me, going off of that, you had me thinking. So I thought about something more current was Kanye. Like how they gave him them honorary doctors, but as soon as they felt, oh, you messed up in my eyes, I take them back.
There you go.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
I was just making sure I got that right. And so now I'm understanding why the current members or current divine ministers and sheiks of the Inc. wouldn't want to acknowledge this, because if you acknowledge it, that means that you're really not a divine minister, because you're under a false moral science temple of America. Would that be correct? When I say that, I'm talking about paper-wise. I'm not trying to say
No. This is what it is. This is what it is, T-Page. I don't, you know what I mean? Many people got me mistaken. I mean, many people got me mistaken. I'm just a proponent of the truth. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I really don't want to throw people under the bus.
Make them feel bad.
However, the truth is just that. And the prophet teaches us, don't blame it on the person. It's the truth. The truth is amicable. You know what I'm saying? Which means it's no fault of mine that the truth in history is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's no. Anybody that have questions, leave questions in the chat, and we'll get to your questions too. Somebody say, who has these questions? T-Page L is asking these questions.
Yeah.
But if you have questions, leave them in the chat. Leave them in the chat. Anybody can leave questions in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, the truth is amicable, man. It doesn't matter. The truth doesn't matter whether it's old, young, ill, healthy, wise, ignorant. The truth is just the truth. So I say this. If the prophet, without a doubt, left the movement in the hands of Emiliel, which is a fact. Again, Emiliel, the one that honored Kirkman-Bey with Supreme Grand Advisor. So he was in power, he was in charge. If he left the movement with Emiliel, which he did, now we have to consider how did Kirkman-Bey get in power? And then we got to go back to the main point. I'm watching what's the name. Hit the question again. I wanted to get this guy a question. You said which? Hold up. So we talking about. I was watching the questions. I want to make sure ain't no questions come up. Oh, so anyway,
No.
If Kirkman-Bey separated from Emiliel, if Kirkman-Bey had credentials, that would make Kirkman-Bey credentials null and void. He didn't have credentials to begin with, but if he did, and no matter what reason for him separating from Kirkman-Bey, that would make his credentials null and void, unless he was given the blessing from Emiliel. You see what I'm saying? And who knows how that had went. But if he separated recklessly with credentials, it would make it null. But he didn't have any credentials. That's number one. So now, what am I saying? Emiliel, and I'll be giving those letters out too. Emiliel practically begged Kirkman-Bey not to do this. He practically begged Kirkman-Bey, come to my house so we can talk. The prophet didn't intend for this to happen. He didn't intend for you to take over the movement. These are letters that I'll be giving away during this lecture. So if anybody chooses to leave, let me give you example. The first and second convention, J. Blakely Bey and F. Nelson Bey was still on the roster with Emiliel. By the time 1934 came, they jumped ship and went with Kirkman-Bey. Their credentials is null and void at that point. You feel what I'm saying? Because in order for your credentials to be right and exact, you have to be right in that line of what the prophet set forth, and it was still in motion. It's not like today, you know what I'm saying, where it's all beat up all over the place. No, the structure was still there, and you chose to abandon it. So anybody who has abandoned the structure as laid by Prophet Noble Drew Ali, at that point, it all becomes null and void. You're powerless. as it relates to the holy and divine movement. It doesn't matter. At that point, it doesn't matter what you file with Europeans. At that point, it doesn't matter what you do. You're powerless because you left the structure that the prophet left for you. And you don't have to like it. You don't have to like the structure leader, Emiliel, but that's what the prophet left for you. We don't like to take medicine all the time, but that's what the prophet left for you.
Yes, yes, it is. Sir. All right. So my question now is, why is the MST of A Inc. an underground organization as to oppose to when the prophet was alive on the manifest? The reason why I say that is because at the highest height of Prophet Noble Drew Ali being on the manifest, he had over 40,000 Moors, right? 15 temples, or is it 17? It's 15 or 17. Don't quote me on the numbers, but 40,000 people, right? And it was known to the public. He was out making moves. But now when you hear of the MST of A, our biggest, and the reason why I'm using MST of A Inc. is because they're the biggest one right now, right? But why is it that you don't hear about it? It's like it's an underground thing. So what's going on? That's
all of this is an illusion. Just as you said, the MST of A Inc. is the biggest one. They really not. They really, okay. They really not. They really like the and this is no disrespect, but they're really like the little midget in, and I'm sorry I have to say it like this. No, I'm sorry. It's like the little man behind the curtain in the Wizard of Oz. They seem to be big,
but they're not.
But when you pull the curtain back, you'll find out, wow, none of these groups are explosively big at all. When you pull the curtain back, you'll find out that most of the addresses on the lineup on the website don't go nowhere. There's no temples. They may have 75 addresses claiming to be temples, but when you look up the address, there's nothing there. It's a field. It's a hotel. It's nothing there. I've done the research because I wanted to be sure that I was right. You know what I'm saying? I've done the research. You know what I'm saying? So in reality, there's a handful of functional temples. A handful. I mean, I can count on one hand of true functional temples. It's all an illusion. It looks good. It's all an illusion. You know, it looks good, especially in this internet era. We can cast all sorts of illusions. You know what I'm saying? But when you do the research, you will find out like, oh, this stuff is not right. And a lot of that research I don't put out because, like I said, I'm not trying to go for blood as it relates to the misrepresentation in that area. You see what I'm saying? What I'm looking for is the truth of the way that this movement is supposed to be structured and moving forward. You follow what I'm saying? That's what I'm looking for. Like I could care less if you jimmy up your website and act like you got 150 temples when in fact, you know what I'm saying, you probably got 5 that's actually functionally doing something. You know, it's like I don't care about that. So I kind of bypassed your question, but yeah, I just wanted to address that too. But what were you saying?
Oh, no, what was I saying? Why is the MST of A Inc. an underground organization as opposed to
this is what it is. The MST of A Inc. For all intents and purposes, turned into a variation of a Masonic organization. That's it. And nobody can deny this. They turned into a variation of a Masonic organization. This is why you see Kirkman Bey with his marked up fez in comparison to Masonic fezes. Now, that's not a Masonic symbol. That's his own unique thing. Sultan with the scimitar and the star, you know what I'm saying? And have ADAP underneath. That's his own unique thing. He created that. That's his thing. You would never find that anywhere in Masonic or Shrindom. That's his thing. So what he did was create a variation of Shrindom, Masonic organization. And we know that Shrindom and Masonic organization is all about being incandescent. You know what I mean? And that's what he did. And so the moment that he was able to grab a little bit foothold, he shut down for quite some time. All of those that left Emilio and went with him, he shut down those temples and told a lot of people to have meetings in their house, and told a lot of people, don't speak about this on the street. This is written. This is not what I'm saying. This is written. But he told people not to speak about this on the streets. Have meetings in your house. He wrote this demonstration. Then you can find it in history. These are some of the slides that I'll be giving away. These are some of the, it's 100 PowerPoint, it's 100 plus PowerPoint slide. And I'll be giving away this authentic information that comes from them. This doesn't come from me. The difference between me, T-Page L, and anybody who know, the difference between me and a lot of podcasters, I pride myself on showing you what I'm talking about. Many podcasters turn on their camera and they just talk. Well, I'm a talk and show. And I'm telling you that it was written. Stop, shut the meetings down. And they went into an incandescent organization. And until this day, I give a shout out to my big bro. I give a shout out to my big bro, hands down, Serrano-Bey. I give a shout out to Serrano-Bey because regardless of the organizational misrepresentation of the structure, if you will, on a national level, regardless of the discombobulated history, that brother lace up his boots every day and step on the concrete. Every day, that brother laces up his boots and step on the concrete. So even if we have a difference in the interpretation of the historicity of the Moorish Science Temple of America, the historicity of leadership, the passage of leadership, every day that brother tighten up his boots and step on that block. He just don't do it for a celebration. He just don't do it for a recognizing every day. That's honor. Now,
I got to cut your wisdom on that because it's something I want to say because people don't recognize that about that brother. Because like I told you, I was away, and I learned about that brother when I was locked up, right? And that's why I want to give honors to Serrano-Bey because when he was in there, brothers was telling me he was in there telling brothers, when I come home, I'm getting me a temple. I'm establishing. I'm going for mine. And to this day, that brother did it. He came home. He was exactly what he talked about. And he's still doing it today.
Today.
Still doing it today. And that was over 40 years ago.
And look,
so I give honor to that brother.
Different. Look, and let me tell you something. I listen, I know a lot of Moors. I know more. I know more Moors than I know family members. I'm talking about blood-related family members. I'm not playing. I know more Moors than I know, and that might sound crazy, but it's just how deep I've been involved in this. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm talking about, I didn't even talk about the internet. I'm talking about off the internet. Like I was looking at something the other day. German Bey wife actually gave me this here. The Alhambra temple. She made this. I've had this for a long time. Temple Alhambra. Allah. She made this and gave it to me years and years ago. You know what I mean? This is German Bey. You know what I'm saying? His wife gave this to me. And so I just met some phenomenal people. I've had phenomenal conversations, but I've never veered from what Prophet Noble Drew Ali demonstrated. Even speaking with German Bey wife, I even mentioned to her like how German Bey did the shake and mixed up a little bit. But that don't change the love. You know what I'm saying? But the
Mhm.
truth is the truth. And so I honor brother Fuqua. I used to say Fuquan. He'd be like, Fuqua.
Yeah, pourquoi Bay.
I honor that brother because he lace up his boots and put them on the ground constantly, every day.
Mhm.
There's not a day he doesn't put his boots on the ground. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? There's not a day. So I honor that brother. But however, we still have to let the truth be told. Because if this is a holy and divine movement, you feel me?
Mhm.
If this is a holy and divine movement, we cannot survive perpetuating any lie that is associated with it. In other words, we can have Boy Scouts, you know what I'm saying? We can have the meetings like Fred and Barney had, you know what I'm saying? You know, they was in there in their little lodge meeting. We can have that. I mean, we can have all that, but we will not have that holy and divine space, and nor will we have the things that come with the holy and divine space until we acknowledge that we have gotten off the path.
Mhm.
Period.
Slum. Leads me to my next question. And you know, out of all these Moors, fractions, or diaspora, or however you, what makes, from your point of view, right? Because I want to hear it from the man sitting on in the high seat.
Who?
You. How is the noble temples? You know what? Let me get this. Let me say this right. How is the Moorish Science Temple of America, affectionately known as Noble Temples, different than all these other temples? Because we can talk and all that, but I want to know. Let the people know.
This is the main difference. For all intents and purposes, we don't subscribe to anything that we consider to be outside of the scope of what the prophet taught. And if we find that we are, we're willing to make an adjustment. That's number one, and that's general.
Mhm.
Specifically, if you go on MST of A Inc. website, they say that after the prophet, Kirkman Bey, F. Nelson Bey, J. Blakely Bey, on and on and on, up to R. Jones Bey. But that's not true. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali never appointed, anointed, or consecrated Kirkman Bey. So there is no Prophet Noble Drew Ali, then Kirkman Bey. That's a flat out lie. Every convention after the prophet to 1933 was held by Emiliel. So on the website, they're saying that it was Prophet Noble Drew Ali, Kirkman Bey, F. Nelson Bey, J. Blakely Bey, on and on and on to R. Jones. That's a lie. You can't deny that. That's a lie.
Mm-hmm.
The other groups, Rasadiel, he was up last night talking super crazy. I'm going to address that too on Moors in America. I wish everybody go check it. That brother had the nerve to host a guy like Rasadiel who just lies and lies and lies. I'm going to address him and Rasadiel too. But with that being said, Rasadiel, he makes up a line, a genealogy back to the prophet. He talk about it's the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. It's it's Prophet Noble Drew Ali, Emiliel, Morris L. He puts somebody else in, and then puts him Baliel, and then he puts himself in. He makes this stuff up. Never ever come back and correct it. Never come back and correct it. Straight lie. Other groups, they claim Meliel, Morris L, Harlan Bey. It was another brother, and then Harlan Bey, and then O. Lewis L, and then they all got this fake line dating back to the prophet all the way up till this present day. a flat out lie. It's all a lie. So if it's all a lie, what is the alternative? The alternative is what the prophet is quoted as saying, that the third and fourth generation will come in the temple, seeing and knowing, and they will carry out my law. We don't claim to be descended from some line in genealogy directed to the prophet. What we do and say is that it is quoted from the prophet, right, wrong, and indifferent, that I will be able to count on my hand. You know what I'm saying? Basically, the faithful. And what we do know, and everyone would agree, that Emeliel was handed the movement by the prophet. All Emeliel's wife, Delia Emeliel, after the passing of Emeliel, did her best to hold the movement together the best she could. By the way of appointing Serrano-Bey to be a chairman. But there was no conventions minutes after 1936. So her as a sheikess, which everybody would have to agree that she was a sheikess, held it together by holding meetings in her home. Appointing Serrano-Bey to chair the meeting, Serrano-Bey would pass it down to chair meetings, not as Supreme Grand Sheik, to chair meetings to O. Louis L. O. Louis L. will pass it down to Bailey L. to chair meetings. Now, we can all say, more likely than not, all of these are sheiks descended from the prophet. We can say that. Emeliel was appointed by the prophet. He told Emeliel to get a wife, and he got a wife, and in the records it says the prophet accepted Delia Emeliel. Delia Emeliel was one of the real fighters, you know, in this movement. Delia Emeliel said, okay, there will be no more Supreme Grand Sheiks after what they did to my husband. So she just maintained meetings. As a sheikess, she has the authority, according to the back of the questionnaire, as a trustee of the organization, because the prophet scratched out trustee and put sheik, interchangeable with sheikess, has the authority to conduct meetings and the authority to appoint. And by default, being the wife of Emeliel, she appointed a chairman. They never organized the movement in the full unfoldment as the prophet had left us. By the way of Sister Delia Emeliel, she never became a Supreme Grand Sheikess. She never appointed nobody to be a Supreme Grand Sheikess. She appointed chairmen to conduct meetings. So even Bailey, we can surmise that he was a sheik and an adapt through that connection, and also what he brought to the table. But was there a grand body in place as laid out by the prophet from Delia Emeliel to 1993 forward? Absolutely not. But they made up a line in genealogy. Belial made me an adapt, a sheik, a divine minister. On the back of our questionnaire, it tells us the power of that position. Me and Belial never had a fallout. Me and Belial never had a disrespectful or a weird confrontation. Nobody with Belial can say that. In fact, we have meetings recorded where Belial actually co-sign, endorses, and say, we're going to get back to our talks. Keep doing what you're doing. This is all recorded. So me as an adept and a sheik and a divine minister see that there was lies at the foundation or the core of trying to rebuild this organization. As a responsible Moorish American Muslim, bring that to the table. Nobody want to address it, and I do what Garvey say. I ask, where are the men of power? Where are the statesmen? Where are the presidents? Where are the kings? And since I don't see it, I'll do it myself. So I decided that I would look at the structure of the organization and I will put it back together with those like-minded people who want this movement on the ground for generations to come. And so that's what I'm doing. So the difference is that I'm not claiming one Supreme Grand Sheikh passed down to another Supreme Grand Sheikh, passed down to another Supreme Grand Sheikh, passed it down to me. I'm saying I'm taking responsibility as an Adept Sheikh and the divine minister. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying. And I'm saying I have the right to. And I'm saying I would debate anybody who claims that I don't. I would debate anybody who claims that I don't. Even the leader of the Bailey Ill faction right now. I would debate him and show that the power lies. The power lies in the title as handed down. Unless I was expelled, unless I abandoned my post. I never abandoned my post. From the time that I started the Noble Temple, virtual temple, I was still within that administration. I transitioned from the administration, but never stopped the meeting. Never stopped. Mm-hmm. Never stopped the meeting. Never was issued anything to stop a meeting. Never. So when you look at the difference, what you're looking at, somebody say, so you don't have incorporation papers. Absolutely we do. What are you talking about? We can debate that too. One thing I will debate is show me yours, I show you mine, and we'll see who's standing on real law. That's it. But you're moving too fast, family. You're moving too fast. I'm talking about one other thing first. That's the difference. We're not claiming that some Supreme Grand Sheikh from Emil passed it down from another Supreme, from another Supreme, from another Supreme, from another Supreme, passed it down for us. We're saying that I was appointed and I seen something. It wasn't corrected. So I endeavor to do exactly what the prophet intended for us to do. Now, if so he said, so let me answer this. He said, so you don't have incorporation papers. We are a not-for-profit corporation, religious corporation. We're not a 501c3. We're not a 501c3, but we are a not-for-profit corporation, religious corporation in a religious society, filed exactly the way that the prophet has laid out for us to do. Exactly. No different. Exactly. Recognized in everything. You know what I'm saying? This is what it is. You know, but let me say this to Jonathan Scott Bey. Incorporation papers or however filing people just brag about, that don't really give you no power. The power is in the people. The power is in the people. Anything that's on paper is only a criteria that's trying to be met. The power is in the people. The power is not. How powerful is, this is a copy of my IDAP papers. How powerful is this IDAP papers right here? How powerful is this? This is nothing. I can put this in a fire and burn it up. It can't do nothing. The power lies in, I certify that after satisfactory relation of infinite experience called to the ADAPT chamber and the views of the holy and divine doctrine of the Moorish Science Temple of America, bro, Toronto, Johnson Bay. Now, with that being said, this is saying that I am certified. Now, just because this say that doesn't mean nothing. until I express that certification on the ground. This don't mean nothing. This don't mean nothing. People get these papers all the time. They go to Kinko's and print them out. They go to Kinko's and get charters. That don't mean nothing. Until you can express it before the people and for the people, this don't mean nothing. So I don't even get into them arguments about your authority. People been having this fake authority for 30 years and they haven't done anything. Who cares? Who cares? You know what I'm saying? But I will debate anybody that question our authority. But you got to bring yours to the table also. You got to bring yours. If you don't bring yours, just keep it moving. Bring yours to the table. I'll bring mine to the table, and we could have a discussion. But if you can't bring yours to the table, what we talking about? We ain't going to have a one-sided argument here. With that being said, I yield the floor.
But yeah, I called Jonathan. I just see Jonathan Scott. I say I heard you say you got a Bay on his last name. So Jonathan Scott Bay. I saw your first question. I was going to end it. He was asking the very first question was, have you ever shown Noble MST of A incorporation documents? So that was the very first question that he asked, and I was going to end it on his question, but he asked another question down here. But hold on before you get into that. No, Kirkman Bey, like going on this question, Kirkman Bey would not be right because Millier was still alive doing this thing. It's not like it's not like Kirkman Bey picked it off and the movement was dead or something to that faction, like how Noble Temples did it. But no, Millier was still alive. He was moving on. He was taking the temple from it, so that makes it totally different. But go ahead, what you saying? Yeah.
So what makes it totally different is the movement was still in full structure. The Supreme Grand Council was put back in place from all those that was infiltrators. They had conventions all the way up to the death of Emily. The movement was still in place. You know what I'm saying? So you know what I mean. This is totally different. In today's world, everybody is walking on a lie. And until one steps up and address the lie, everybody will be following a lie, like it or not, no matter how good it feels. Many times we feel good. People use drugs and feel good. People use the preacher and feel good. People use the imam and feel good. People use all types of things to feel good. Just because it feel good, don't make it right. So if one was to step up and say, hold up, man, enough is enough. Let's put this thing down back right like it's supposed to be so we can have the rewards that come with a holy and divine movement. You follow what I'm saying? Floor is yours.
Oh, okay. Well, that was going to be my last question, but because I got to get out of here. I got to go to work. Yeah, I'm one of those working more. You know, I work for a living.
So let me say this, family. I actually put the link in here for this lecture. We're going to do this again. The lecture is Sunday, if you will. The lecture is Sunday, and I'm telling you, I would love for everybody who's interested in this history. I'm gonna tell you. Let me point out some of the things that I'm gonna show. Some of the things that I'm gonna show is that. People like Ras Adiel, he loves to say that, Cook Bey took the fez off his head and the black fez. Cook Bey took the black fez off of his head and put it on my head. Well, Cook Bey sold the prophet out too. What are you talking about? We got the documents. Cook Bey sold the prophet, both of them. And the sad thing about that is that the Cook Beys lived on top of the prophet. The prophet lived on the bottom 43603. They lived at the top. They sold the prophet out. So to say that, try to validate yourself. Last night on the show, he said something about a brother told him this and told him that. All of these people sold the prophet out. You see what I'm saying? All these people, how you going to say these are my teachers, this one and that one? And you ain't naming none of them that didn't sell the prophet out. You understand what I'm saying? So we're going to be talking about how the black fairs enter into the equation misrepresented. How the black fast entered into the equation. We're going to talk about is it true, false, or indifferent. We're also going to talk about these capes that these people are wearing that we never can find in the prophet, and we never can find these capes in any picture of the prophet and the Moors with the prophet. They wearing capes. What is that all about? What is this black fez all about? Now, I got a black fez too, but I don't misrepresent it. It's been misrepresented. What is this mufti thing all about? Did the prophet have a mufti for us? Absolutely not. We're going to talk about that with receipts. We're also going to talk about Serrano-Bey being an informant. We're going to show and prove with receipts that he was a police informant. We're going to show that with receipts. No one will be able to deny what I'm about to show with receipts, that he was a police informant.
Islam, I might have to get out of here. I got to go.
All right, peace, brother. Peace, brother.
Peace.
All right.
Peace.
So look. So he got to go, but I'm gonna give it like about 15 minutes myself. So we're gonna show that he was a police informant. Damn. Jonathan Scott Bey say, I think the capes are fly though. But what do they represent? Remember, Jonathan Scott Bey, everything comes with an energy. Everything comes with a principle of energy. And if you wrap yourself in that principle of energy, what are you wrapping yourself in? What's the degree behind it? Everything in Moorish science is an essence to it. There's a degree to it. What's the degree behind it, Jonathan Scott Bey? What is it? Has anybody ever explained it? What exactly is it? What's the origin of it? Where does it come from? What is the purpose? The Prophet Noble Drew Ali mentioned, he is quoted as saying, the garments that I wear represents royalty. So when we see the prophet in his robes, when we see the prophet in the Moroccan or the Moorish customary wear, I'm not saying you can't wear capes. That's not what I'm saying. But let's not equate that to the prophet is very specific. You know what I'm saying? When you see the prophet, you see him with his sash on, tied down. You see him with his priestly robe on. Yeah. That's so what is the difference? You follow what I'm saying? There it is. His title is noble. So I'm gonna be talking about that. Also, I'm going to be talking about how the movement appears to be in the hands of MST of A Inc. and how they underscore that they are the movement because of the filing at the Secretary of State. I'm going to address that. I'm going to show you every filing, and I'm going to prove to you that the bait and switch was real. I'm going to prove to you. And I'm going to prove to you that if we do not address these items, this 100 PowerPoint slide that we just spinning our wheels. That's all we doing. See, that's what Jesus came to do during the time that the Romans had taken the Israelites for a ride. The Pharisees and the Sadducees wanted to remain in the condition. So when Jesus come, he said, nah, they remixed this. I mean, he said, not a jot nor tittle will change. That's the only thing I'm saying. We're not going to change anything. Not a jot nor tittle. We want to do this exactly like Prophet Noble Drew Ali so we can have the benefits thereof. And the Prophet Noble Drew Ali footprints are clearly cut. Everything that we see now is a remix. For the most part, is a remix. For example, people get mad at me for having these conversations, but no one ever got mad at Taj Tariq Bey for representing the Moorish Science Temple of America with no true concept of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali's teachings. He did this for over 25 years, misrepresentation. Nobody stood up and said, that's not right. That's not. They was in their little corners. They was in their little temples. They was in their little groups and was saying, that's not right. While he was publicly on the highways and the byways, teaching his interpretation of what it is to be Moorish. I thank the brother for real, because he started more conversation about Moorish than the average proclaimed Moorish American Muslim. That's right. He started more conversation about Moorish than the average Moorish American Muslim. So I thank him for that. You know what I mean? Because out of the worst, the wise will find means of good. But at the same time, there was not one leader. There was not one leader that stepped up. Not one that stepped up to check or correct any of the misinformation that had been laid out. Not one. And so now a brother Serrano-Bey come on the scene. They look at me as the enemy, as a threat, because I'm doing something that they should have been done. They should have been questioned everything. They should have been, you know what I'm saying? They should have been saying, that's not right. They should have been doing these things, but they never did it. So when you don't question, you're in compliance. You're part of the problem. So with that being said, family, I'll be live again. I'll show a few slides that I'm gonna give up. I just put the link in there if anybody want to support. Again, I'm gonna be doing lectures once a month because I want to finish up. I already started on this documentary about the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And I want this documentary of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali actually go to Netflix. I want the Prophet Noble Drew Ali be known around the world as a historical figure who made change in America. You know what I'm saying? For those here in America and around the planet, but starting at home. Family, I really going to make sure that this documentary that I put down are laid with facts. Are laid with facts. I mean, unfact. I'm actually going to somebody say, where's that book though? Jonathan Scott Bey, I'm working on a lot of things, brother. Wait for me. The book is actually done, but I'm trying to solidify the last, I got a few parts more that I got to lay out for this documentary before, because I'm going to let the book go with the documentary. I'm going to try to have it out by this summer. I'm telling you. But family, I'm also going to do, and I want to see if Moors are really interested in it. I remember when I went to do the Moorish village thing, I said, you know, if we can create a space where we can do commerce and we can start to build, it'll be nice for all Moors. I've tried to work with all Moors. I've tried to do something on the ground. You know what I'm saying? However, you know, Moors are real slow to move on things that could be tangible for Moors and for non-proclaimed Moors. They are slow to move. So I went with the Moorish village thing. We hardly got any support. I took the GoFundMe down and I moved on. You know what I'm saying? We have 10 acres of land. How many people want to go and start to build on 10 acres of land? Man, we've been spoiled. If I put a call out and say, we need someone to donate some time to help build on 10 acres of land, why can't you pay me? You see what I'm saying? Because your children will be able to use this to further our prosperity. You know what I'm saying? We have 10 acres of land. We have businesses. We have a lot going on. But if we would say, come on, join and help build these businesses, whether you proclaimed or not, everybody be looking for a quick pay. We in the microwave age where in reality, if we work together, we all can move on better paying jobs and better homes, as the prophet mentioned. But man, we in a microwave age. Again, right now, you know, I could say, listen, we have 10 acres of land ready to be cultivated. Anybody want to go there? Anybody got some money that they could put to putting some small homes there? Maybe we could go and have retreats once a year until we decide we want to go there. Maybe we could, but you know what? We are become spoiled. We are a spoiled people right now. Like we don't want to plant our own food. Most people just want to go to the grocery store. We don't want to drill our own well. We rather drink faucet water in a bottle sold at the grocery store and call it spring water. You know what I'm saying? So I've come to learn the hard way. I put like 3 years in trying to inspire, proclaim Moorish Americans to let's build something. Let's build this Moorish village in any city. I'm in Baltimore, so I was going to start it in Baltimore. Very, very, very lackluster people interested. The Moors are just as spoiled as non-proclaimed. Let me tell you, I get more support from those who don't proclaim Moorish than those who proclaim Moorish. This is just a fact. This is just a fact. You know what I'm saying? But Moors are supposed to be the conscious one. You know what I'm saying? Moors are supposed to be the conscious one. You know what I'm saying? I took money out my own pocket and a few small donations and bought the first building for the Moorish village. I couldn't even, in reality, I was struggling to maintain home and to build it up. Myself and those in the Moorish Science Temple of America style as the Noble Temple, faithful Moors, giving what they can. Quincy Robson-L, he buying the heat, the baseboard heaters and lights and stuff like that. Man, there was all of these Moors on the internet. And the Moorish village idea was not particularly straight for some Tahaka Bay thing. It was a place where as though we would offset those Arabs down on Saratoga Street. If we were offset, you go into a hotel if you was passing through. We were offset if you was coming to Baltimore for a lecture. You'll have a place to stay. You'll have a place to rest your head. Bed and breakfasts. It was something like that. Whether you were proclaimed or not, whether you was Pan-African, whether you was in this day and time FBA, whether you was whatever, you could go into this Moorish village and we was going to start small. You feel what I'm saying? We're going to start small. You can have your little corner grocery store. You have your little corner consignment shop. You have your little corner things like that. But let me tell you something. I got lackluster support from Moors. And this is why I changed my perspective on teaching Moorish science. Now, I teach it in the temple 2 times a week. The sheiks in the temple, they teach in the temple. But when I go on Moorish World TV, I'm teaching people wisdom. I'm teaching people wisdom, what to look for in real time. I'm talking to my brothers and sisters and my friends and the Moorish World TV citizens about what we're up against today, because I found out that talking to Moors are just as blind as the people that they call blind. And those that they talk about calling themselves black are more conscious than most Moors. And that's just the fact. Like it or not, Moors can talk about people calling themselves black. Moors can talk about people calling themselves African American. But when it comes to putting the rubber to the road, those are the brothers and sisters that are moving. And not to mention those of different nationalities that are Asiatics, they also ready to move. M. Nugent, a friend of mine in the temple, He's from a different nationality. He's an Asiatic, but he's ready to move. Ready to move. And we got many more ready to move. We had brothers in Ghana join the temple, ready to move. We had a sister in Canada who had joined, ready to move. We had Grand Sheiks run them away. We had Grand Sheiks like Akhenaten, Serrano-Bey, had to get rid of him because he ran a whole temple astray. He in Atlanta right now, acting like he's an official Moorish Science Temple of America, officially moving on the strength of the Prophet Obadiah Ali. He ran a whole temple away, looking at the sisters like a smorgasbord. Had to call him out, had to take him up, but play dress up all the time, good speeches all the time. Ran the sister from Canada away. Ran a sister from Atlanta away. Ran a sister from South Carolina away. It's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. So, and I also got a show coming on about that, about flawed leadership that go not addressed, that go unaddressed. We're going to do a show about that on here. And we're going to give names. We're going to call names and do examples because it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And people get mad at me because I'm going to call you out. Now, don't get mad at me. Learn the lesson that it's okay to call people out. And if they answer to it, call them out in private first. If they answer up to it, then it's fixable. You can fix the problem. However, if they don't answer up in private to fix the problem, you let the public know. So the public won't be played by their nefarious acts. You let the public know. Because we are on a public forum. We are on a public forum. And this, through this camera, is where most people in this era of time are fooled and bamboozled. They go live on holy days and acting real holy. They go live on an event and acting like they so festive. But behind the scenes, trying to run through every sister they can get a hand on, manipulating the teachings, misinterpreting the teachings, teaching people the craziest interpretation of the teachings. And you know our people, we love shiny trinkets. We love spinning shiny rims. We love gold chains unconsciously. We love it. You know what I'm saying? And the same thing with supposedly spiritual teachings. We love the shiny teachings. We love to hear that we can levitate. We love to hear that a word means this. And if you activate this word, you can activate yourself and float in thin air. We love to say that if I touch you here, I can make sure and activate your spiritual seed of Allah. Like our people love this spooky stuff. And these people that are charlatans know this. But with that being said, I also got to get to work. It's 1 o'clock. I appreciate y'all. I'll be going live here again more often. I ask that you share it. And most definitely leave a comment. Because if you don't leave a comment, I don't think you're interested. You know what I'm saying? And I got 2 other channels that I work on. I got Temple, I got a job, I got a family. So if I don't think you're interested, then hey, there's no need for me to continue to give this show improved knowledge. But with that being said, family, I appreciate y'all, and I'm up out of here. Peace and love. Peace and love. All right.